Welcome to the Sleep Hours, the only place where cartoons fall asleep before you do. So grab your blanket, tuck in your favorite plushie, and let's get weird. Tonight on the Sleep Hours, we're bringing you a calming Teen Titans Go story. The tower grows quiet. The team shares gentle moments, and together they drift into dreams. So sit back, relax, and let this bedtime story guide you into a beautiful sleep. The evening begins its slow descent over Jump City, painting the horizon in strokes of lavender and gold. The tall skyscrapers glisten faintly under the fading light, their edges softened by the coming dusk. High above the city's quiet streets, the Titan's tower stands as it always does, a watchful silhouette against the sky shaped like the letter T, steady and familiar. Yet tonight, the tower carries a different kind of presence, not the hum of strategy meetings or the echo of alarms, but the hush of calm settling in, as if even the walls themselves are ready to rest. Inside, the usual rhythm of the day has shifted. The clamor of battles, the sparks of training, and the playful chaos that often fills the hallways have all gently ebbed away. What remains is a stillness, warm and inviting. The living room glows softly under the setting sun, its rays spilling through the wide glass windows and stretching across the floor in long bands of amber and rose. The furniture seems to melt into the golden haze, and the quiet hum of the city below fades into something distant and dreamlike. Robin is the first to let the calm seep into him. He sits with his training plans neatly tucked away on the table beside him. The usual tightness in his shoulders loosens, and for the first time all day, he allows himself to smile. Not the determined smile of a leader, but the gentle, unguarded kind that surfaces only when he feels safe among his friends. His gaze lingers on the room, watching as the others gather, each finding their own way to settle into the evening's peace. Starfire floats gracefully near the couch before settling down, her eyes wide with wonder at the colors of the sunset dancing across the glass. She folds her hands neatly in her lap, her posture as serene as the fading sky. Cyborg stretches out with a long sigh, lowering himself into the cushions, the metallic hum of his frame blending almost seamlessly with the low hum of the tower systems. Beast Boy tumbles in after, his playful energy softened by the mood of the evening. Instead of bouncing around, he simply flops onto the rug, sprawling comfortably as though the floor itself has become his safe haven. Raven arrives quietly, almost unnoticed at first, carrying with her the gentle weight of stillness. She settles into a chair tucked into the corner, opening a book she doesn't plan to read too closely, more a familiar comfort than a task. Together, they form a picture that feels rare. A team not in motion, not preparing for what may come, but simply existing in the same space, breathing in the same quiet. The glow of the sun touches each of them in turn, soft orange brushing against Robin's mask, pink light catching in Starfire's hair, gold glinting off Cyborg's metallic frame. It feels as though the light itself has chosen to sit among them, joining in the pause. A hush falls over the room, but it is not the kind of silence that feels empty. It is the gentle kind, filled with the faint sound of pages turning, the quiet shuffle of feet against the rug, the almost inaudible hum of the city outside the windows. The Titans are not speaking, yet their presence says everything. The air is thick with a sense of shared comfort, a wordless laughter that threads through the stillness. And then, slowly, that laughter does appear, soft and easy like ripples in a pond. A small chuckle from Beast Boy answered by a low murmur from Cyborg, met with a quiet smile from Starfire. Even Raven, in her own subtle way, lets a flicker of amusement cross her face as she lowers her eyes back to her book. Robin, watching all of this unfold, lets out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. For a moment, he allows himself to be just Robin, not the leader, not the strategist. Just a friend sitting among those who matter most to him. The laughter is not loud, not bursting with energy as it often is during the day. Instead, it drifts like a soft melody, blending with the golden hush of the evening. It carries no urgency, no sharpness, only the sound of people who feel at ease, who know that for now, the world can wait. Their voices rise and fall gently, weaving together until they sound less like separate threads and more like one soft hum, resonating in the heart of the tower. The sunset deepens, shifting the light from gold to rose, and finally into a muted violet that drapes across the room like a velvet curtain. The windows reflect the last traces of the sun, capturing fleeting glimmers before handing them over to the night. The Titans remain gathered, caught in the slow unraveling of the day. Their movements are unhurried, their breaths even, as if they have all silently agreed to let this moment stretch as long as it will allow. The tower seems to breathe with them, its walls absorbing the quiet, as if even the building understands this rare softness. Usually the living room would echo with the clatter of video games, the sparks of sparring sessions, or the lively chatter that fills the air whenever the Titans gather. Tonight, it is different. The energy is slower, like a song winding down to its gentlest notes. The cushions sink beneath the weight of Cyborg as he adjusts, stretching one arm along the back of the couch, his head tilting slightly toward the fading glow outside. His eye lens flickers faintly in the dimming light, but even that mechanical shimmer feels subdued, almost delicate, like a firefly at dusk. Beast Boy, sprawled across the rug, stretches out one leg lazily, his toes brushing against the base of the table. For once, he doesn't shift into different animals to entertain or disrupt. He simply exists as himself, comfortable and content. Starfire leans forward, her chin resting gently on her hands as her eyes remain fixed on the sunset. To her, every color seems like a miracle, each shade of orange, pink, and purple blending together as though the sky itself is painting a gift for them. Her expression is one of quiet wonder, untouched by worry or thought, as if she could sit like this forever and never tire of it. Raven turns another page, though she hasn't read the last one. Her book is more of a companion than a story tonight, a small ritual that ties her to the present. She glances up now and again, not to engage, but to notice. Beast Boy's lazy grin, Cyborg's easy posture, Starfire's soft glow. Each detail registers, though she says nothing. Instead, she lets the silence wash over her, allowing herself to be part of it without breaking it. Robin's eyes move across the room, quietly observing. His usual restlessness is gone, replaced by a rare stillness that comes only when he is surrounded by trust. He can feel it in his chest, the simple, unspoken truth that the team is safe. No alarms, no threats, no battles, just this. A moment of reprieve in a world that rarely gives them one. His smile lingers, unforced and genuine, as he leans back slightly in his seat. The light continues its slow retreat, dimming until the sun has all but disappeared. What remains is a soft afterglow, that fleeting time between sunset and nightfall where everything feels suspended, as though the world is holding its breath. The city outside grows quieter, too, its sounds muffled by distance and by the tower's protective embrace. Streetlights blink on one by one, casting their glow across the water below, little stars rising from the earth to meet those waiting in the sky. The Titans do not hurry to fill the silence. Their gentle laughter fades into small smiles, their bodies settling deeper into comfort. It is not the silence of distance, but of closeness, an understanding that nothing needs to be said to be shared. Even the smallest gestures carry meaning. The way Beast Boy's hand absently rests near Cyborg's foot, or the way Raven tilts her book slightly toward the lamp, or the way Starfire's eyes soften as she looks at her friends instead of the fading light. The tower feels cocooned, the living room like the heart of it, pulsing softly with warmth. The colors on the walls shift with the evening, shadows stretching longer, shapes blending into one another until only outlines remain. Yet the glow inside, of friendship, of calm, remains unshaken. Somewhere deep within the tower, the quiet hum of machinery continues its steady rhythm. It is faint, but it serves as a reminder. This place is alive in its own way, a guardian that shelters them not just in battle, but in rest. Tonight that hum feels almost like a lullaby, cradling the team in steady reassurance. As the minutes pass, the stillness deepens, weaving itself around each of them like a soft blanket. The Titans, so often in motion, so often called to fight or to act, now allow themselves to do the simplest thing: be still. It is a rare gift, and though none of them say it, each of them feels it. The stillness in the tower is not empty. It carries with it a tapestry of quiet details that become more noticeable in the absence of noise. The faint hum of electricity runs like a heartbeat through the wall, steady and low. Every so often, the gentle tick of the wall clock makes itself known, a subtle reminder of time slipping forward. From the kitchen beyond, the soft drip of a faucet echoes faintly, blending seamlessly into the hush. The living room itself feels alive with texture. The rug beneath Beast Boy spreads like a meadow of woven threads, thick and warm, cushioning his weight. He presses his fingers idly into it, tracing invisible lines, the fabric springing back against his touch. The couch where Cyborg leans gives a low creak as he shifts, the leather softened from years of use. Starfire's seat by the window feels almost wrapped in sunlight, the fading glow spilling across her like silk. Raven's chair, tucked into the corner, holds her with a firm steadiness. The edges of the fabric cool against her hands as they rest on the armrest. Scents linger faintly in the air, carried on the slow circulation of the tower's ventilation system. There is a hint of something metallic, clean and sharp, the faint smell of Cyborg's repairs earlier in the day. It mixes with the softer scent of old books, Raven's ever-present companion. Layered atop these is the lingering sweetness of Starfire's earlier cooking attempt, a fragrance that hangs gently in the background like the memory of laughter. Together, these scents weave into a fragrance that belongs only to the Titans, comforting in its familiarity. Outside, the world contributes its own notes to the calm. Through the vast glass windows, the city's pulse can be felt rather than heard. Far-off car horns, softened by distance, become no louder than whispers. A faint breeze stirs against the glass, carrying the smell of salt water from the bay below. Now and then, the quiet cry of a gull cuts across the air, though it fades quickly, as though even the creatures of the city understand that this is the night meant for peace. Robin leans back further in his chair, the fabric beneath him rustling softly, and closes his eyes just for a moment. In the darkness behind his lids, he feels the warmth of the sun still brushing against his skin. The calm is so steady, so different from his usual sharp focus, that it almost feels like the tower itself is urging him to release the weight of the day. His breathing slows, sinking naturally with the rhythm of the room. Starfire's gaze remains fixed on the last ribbons of color in the sky. Her eyes glisten softly, reflecting the violet shades now slipping into indigo. To her, the shift of evening is a wonder she treasures deeply, a gift that feels alive, carrying whispers from far-off stars. She tilts her head slightly, her hair catching the fading light, glowing faintly as if the sunset has chosen to linger with her. Cyborg's movements slow, his usually restless fingers no longer tapping at invisible controls or gadgets. Instead, his metal hand rests heavily but comfortably against the arm of the couch. The faint whir of his internal systems provides a steady counterpoint to the quiet, but it is gentle, almost soothing, a reminder that even his mechanical heart can find a rhythm of rest. Beast Boy sighs in contentment, the sound low and almost childlike. His body molds itself further into the rug, shoulders and arms sinking into its softness. He stretches lazily, his limbs heavy, his usual spark of mischief dulled by the weight of comfort. The smell of the fabric, faintly earthy, mixes with the salt from the open water beyond the windows, wrapping him in a sense of grounding. Raven remains composed, yet even she cannot keep the room's tranquility from reaching her. Her fingers rest lightly on the pages of her book, though she has not moved past the same line for several minutes. She lifts her gaze, studying the play of shadows across the walls. Her breathing is even, her presence steady, yet there is a softness in her stillness, as though the edges of her usual reserve have blurred, melted slightly by the hush around her. The tower, bathed in the twilight glow, feels like a sanctuary. Every corner, every surface seems to hum with reassurance. The world outside may demand their strength, their vigilance, but within these walls, in this hour, they are simply themselves, together, safe. And so the quiet deepens further, folding itself into the fabric of the room, draping over them like an invisible blanket. The first stars prick the sky beyond the glass, faint at first, but growing bolder against the indigo backdrop. They twinkle gently, as though peeking in at the team through the vast windows, joining in their stillness. The city lights mirror them below, their reflections shimmering across the darkening waters, until the whole view seems alive with tiny, flickering flames. The Titans remain gathered, breathing in unison, their presence filling the room more fully than words ever could. And though the day has ended, the night has only just begun its song, a melody of rest, of calm, of quiet hearts, finding peace. Night comes quietly, as though it has been waiting patiently outside the windows for its moment to enter. The last traces of sunset fade into memory, leaving the horizon painted in deep indigo. Overhead, the first constellations claim their places, spreading across the heavens in patterns as old as time. The stars glitter faintly, their reflections dancing on the still waters surrounding the tower until the line between sky and sea feels blurred. Inside the tower, the change is subtle, but unmistakable. The golden light of the sun is replaced by a softer glow, the lamps in the living room casting pools of warmth that resist the encroaching dark. Their light is muted, gentle by design, no harsh brightness, no sharp contrast, only a steady radiance that makes the room feel cocooned, as though the world outside has been hushed away. Shadows stretch long across the floor, but they are not menacing. They sway softly with the rhythm of the light, becoming part of the room's gentle breathing. The air has cooled slightly, carrying with it a crispness that makes the comfort of the living room even more pronounced. Beast Boy stirs lazily, pulling himself into a more comfortable sprawl, his arms tucked beneath his head. The rug beneath him holds warmth from the sunlight earlier in the day, now slowly releasing it in a way that feels like a lingering embrace. Cyborg shifts as well, his frame sinking deeper into the cushions, the couch giving a faint groan as if it too is stretching into relaxation. Robin has leaned forward to dim one of the lamps, the click of the switch small but noticeable in the quiet. The room responds instantly, the light softening further, bathing them in an amber haze that seems made for sleep. He sits back again, satisfied, his posture more at ease than it has been in days. His gloved fingers rest lightly against his knee, unmoving, as though even the act of fidgeting has been set aside for tonight. Starfire folds her legs gracefully beneath her, her posture straight yet relaxed, her eyes still tracing the stars through the glass. They fascinate her endlessly, each point of light carrying the memory of home, of other skies far away. Yet tonight her gaze feels rooted, not in longing, but in presence. The stars outside are companions, not reminders, joining her here in the tower. She smiles faintly, her lips curved with the softness of someone who feels utterly content. Raven's page remains unturned. Her hand still rests on the book, but her focus has shifted elsewhere. The shadows, the flicker of light, the faint sound of Beast Boy's steady breathing. All of it layers together in a quiet symphony that holds her attention more than the words before her. She lowers the book slightly, letting it rest in her lap, and allows her eyes to close for just a moment. Beyond the glass, the city's sounds have quieted, almost to nothing. The occasional car moves like a ghost along the distant roads, headlights glinting briefly before vanishing into the night. A soft breeze brushes against the tower's walls, carrying with it the scent of salt and the coolness of the bay. The rhythmic lap of water against the base of the tower becomes a steady undertone, low and calming, like the earth itself breathing. Inside, the tower feels weightless, suspended in time. The air is warm where the lamps touch it, cool where the shadows linger. It creates a balance, a gentle rhythm that mirrors the team's own steady breaths. The room's textures, the softness of fabric, the faint coolness of glass, the firmness of wood, seem heightened in the hush, as though the senses have become more attuned now that words and action are set aside. The Titans, each in their own posture of ease, seem to glow faintly in the golden haze. Their closeness is unspoken, but felt in the space between them. The room hums with their presence, with the trust that binds them, with the quiet acknowledgement that this stillness is as vital as any battle they have fought. It is a reminder that even heroes need moments where the world stops asking, and they can simply be. Minutes pass like this, uncounted, unmeasured. The living room feels like the very center of the night, still, safe, wrapped in quiet. No alarms blare, no urgent calls disrupt. For now, the tower belongs only to them, and the silence becomes not an absence but a gift. The night grows thicker, pressing gently against the tower's glass, though inside, the living room remains a sanctuary of calm. The amber glow of the lamps has softened even further, their light fading into the kind of dimness that carries no edge. It is the light of in-between spaces where wakefulness begins to blur, and the first hints of dreams hover near. The Titans have grown quieter still, their movements slowed until they are little more than shifts and sighs. Beast Boy has curled on his side now, his arms tucked close, the rug beneath him a nest of warmth. Cyborg's head has tilted slightly, his gaze fixed lazily on nothing in particular, the mechanical hum within him subdued, like the faint purr of an engine winding down. Robin rests with one leg stretched, one hand folded across his chest, his mask shadowed in the dimness, his expression softened into calm neutrality. Starfire remains upright, though her posture has softened. Her eyes have lost their constant flicker of wonder, though they still reflect the faintest glow from the stars outside. To her, this silence feels like a kind of music, one she doesn't need to sing aloud to hear. Her hands rest quietly in her lap, fingers folded together with a patience that could last the whole night. Raven has closed her book entirely now. It rests on the arm of her chair, its pages gently shut, as if even it knows that tonight is not for words. She leans back slightly, her hood still lowered, her expression unreadable, but calm. Her eyes close again, this time for longer, her breathing steady, the rhythm of someone unbothered. The air in the room feels heavier, but not with burden. It is the heaviness of comfort, of stillness, the weight that comes when a body finally allows itself to rest. Each sound has grown softer, each breath slower. Even the hum of the tower's machinery feel more like a whisper now, blending into the backdrop of the night. Beyond the glass, the stars shine steadily. Their glow 1,000 tiny guardians watching from afar. The water below mirrors them, shimmering faintly with each ripple, so that it seems as though the tower is floating in a sea of lights. The city quiet and distant, flickers in its own subdued rhythm, but it feels far away, no closer than a dream. Inside, the room breathes as one. The Titans do not speak, do not move with urgency. Their togetherness is not loud or dramatic, but quiet and sure, like the heartbeat of a single being stretched across 5 souls. It is in the closeness of their silence, in the way their presence lingers like warmth in the air. The minutes stretch longer, dissolving into a rhythm that no one tries to measure. Perhaps it is 10, perhaps 20, but the room itself has stopped caring. Time feels slowed here, as if the tower has gathered all the stillness of the night and poured it into this one room, suspending it in place. Every surface reflects this peace. The glass windows gleam faintly with starlight. The couch cushions hold the shape of those who have settled into them, like impressions carved gently into memory. The rug beneath Beast Boy feels like a patch of meadow caught under the tower's roof, woven with threads that remember every laugh and every pause. Raven's book lies silent, its stories resting alongside its reader. Even the lamplight seems to sway, though no wind stirs it, as though the room itself is breathing with them. At last, the quiet settles into its deepest form, not a silence of waiting, but a silence of being. The tower feels not just like a home, but like a resting friend, its vast frame embracing those inside. The night has fully claimed Jump City, but here in the tower, in this one glowing room, the Titans sit gathered in stillness, their laughter and voices now folded into memory. They are not asleep yet, but they are close, their hearts unguarded, their shoulders unburdened, their breaths steady. Heroes they may be, but tonight, in this moment, they are something simpler, something more human. Friends sharing a quiet night together, wrapped in the calm of the world they so often protect. And so the tower grows quiet, its silence stretching wide and deep, carrying them gently into the night. In the softened glow of the tower's living room, a new rhythm begins to stir. The quiet that has held the team so tenderly does not vanish. Instead, it shifts, flowing into something warmer, something fragrant and alive. It begins with the faint clink of porcelain, a sound so delicate that it barely disturbs the air. From the small kitchen, tucked beside the living room, a new presence spreads, a fragrance carried on invisible waves, sweet and calming, winding its way into every corner of the space. It is Starfire who moves with the grace of ritual. She prepares a pot of her herbal tea, a blend from far beyond this world, gathered from the gardens of her home planet, and remembered in her heart. The kettle hums as the water warms, a gentle rising sound that joins the tower's quiet hum. When it finally gives a low sigh of steam, She pours it carefully over the waiting herbs, and the scent blooms instantly. Rich, floral, with a sweetness that feels almost like starlight caught in a cup. It drifts outward, curling through the air, wrapping itself around each of her friends. The aroma is soothing, weighty yet light, like something both earthly and unearthly at once. It carries the memory of distant gardens and long-lost skies, but here tonight, it simply feels like comfort. The Titans, still wrapped in their silence, notice it slowly, their senses stirring even as their bodies remain relaxed. Cyborg is the first to shift, his head tilting slightly, a smile spreading lazily across his face as the scent reaches him. Beast Boy, sprawled on the rug, lifts his nose to the air with a playful sniff, though his movements are slower than usual, softened by the drowsiness that has already begun to cradle him. Their energy is not absent. It is merely dimmed, smoothed into something gentler, like laughter carried through a dream. When Starfire returns with the tray, it is not with fanfare, but with the quiet joy of someone offering warmth. The mugs, mismatched and familiar, clink softly as she places them on the low table. The sound is small, yet in the hush of the room it carries a resonance, like bells ringing far away. Steam rises in thin, curling ribbons, carrying the tea's fragrance higher, until the entire room feels steeped in it. Beast Boy and Cyborg are quick to lean forward, their playful rivalry flickering to life, though even that feels subdued tonight. Their gestures are light, their voices little more than hushed murmurs, a soft parody of their usual energetic debates. They point toward the mugs, nudging shoulders in slow motion, the kind of playful argument that carries no edge. Their laughter comes in low bursts, gentle and sleepy, melting quickly into the quiet that surrounds them. Raven sits back, her book now open again in her lap. For the first time that night, her voice enters the room, not loud or sharp, but soft and steady. She reads a passage aloud, not for instruction, not even entirely for herself, but because her voice seems to fit the atmosphere like another instrument in the orchestra of calm. The words roll slowly, carefully, like pebbles dropped one at a time into still water. Each syllable falls into place, the sound unhurried, deliberate, until it becomes something closer to song and speech. Her tone is low, measured, carrying the gravity of her mysterious text, yet softened into something almost lullaby-like. The others do not interrupt. Their eyes half close, their bodies lean into the sound. It does not matter what the words mean. What matters is the way her voice drifts, steady and constant, carrying them deeper into the rhythm of the night. The mugs are passed gently from hand to hand, each one cradled with care. Their surfaces are warm, smooth against the skin, sending quiet pulses of heat into the fingers that hold them. The steam curls upward, brushing against cheeks, fogging the lenses of Cyborg's eye for just a second before fading away. The first sip is taken cautiously and then followed by sighs of contentment. The sweetness of the tea settling on the tongue, coating the throat with comfort. The sound of it all is simple, yet it fills the room more completely than any battle cry or cheer could. The faint clink of mugs on the table, the soft murmur of sleepy laughter, the turning of Raven's page, the quiet lilt of her voice, the hum of steam still rising from the pot. Together, these sounds weave into a rhythm that holds the Titans as though in a cradle, rocking them slowly toward a deeper rest. And so the living room's transformed. No longer just a gathering place, it becomes a sanctuary of ritual. A place where the simplest act of sharing tea binds them together, body and spirit, in the gentle music of the night. The tea, once poured, seems to change the very air of the room, What was simply quiet before now feels layered, woven with warmth. Each curl of steam rises like a ghostly ribbon, then dissolves softly into the amber light. The fragrance lingers on their clothes, their hair, and in the air itself until it feels impossible to separate the team from the scent. It clings like memory, and the kind that will return in dreams. Starfire takes her own mug and holds it delicately, her hands cradling it as though it were a precious star she might carry back into the sky. She does not rush to drink, but instead closes her eyes for a moment, inhaling the aroma. To her, it is not merely a drink. It is a connection, a thread that ties this night to her past, to gardens glowing beneath alien moons. Yet here, shared among her friends, it feels even more sacred. Cyborg takes a hearty sip, though even he is softened by the atmosphere. The usual metallic clink of his movements is dulled tonight, his mechanics blending seamlessly with the quiet. The warmth of the tea radiates outward through him, his body relaxing further into the couch. A sigh escapes, unplanned and unguarded, a sound that fills the space like a note held long and low on a cello. Beast Boy cups his mug in both hands, holding it so close to his face that the steam fogs his skin. He grins lazily, though the grin is smaller than his usual bright display, something gentler, slower. He leans back against the couch, stretching his legs across the rug, the heat from the mug soaking into his fingers until he wiggles them with satisfaction. His laughter, when it comes, is muted, rolling softly from his chest, as if even humor has learned to whisper tonight. Raven's voice continues to flow, steady as the tea itself. She does not raise it, does not rush. Each word emerges like a footstep on a quiet path, guiding the team deeper into the woods of calm. The story is one she has read before, the language rich and strange, yet the meaning almost irrelevant. What matters is her cadence, the way the syllables are spaced, the gentle rhythm that becomes part of the room's pulse. It is not a performance, not for her. It is simply her voice, stripped of its usual sharpness, worn down to something elemental and soothing. Robin sits quietly, his mug resting against his palm, the heat grounding him. He doesn't often indulge in stillness, yet tonight he lets himself lean into it. He watches the scene unfold around him, his gaze drifting from one friend to another. The sight of them at ease, their edges softened, their laughter subdued, their breath slow, fills him with a peace he rarely admits he craves. He takes a sip, and the warmth seems to settle deeper than his body, as though it is seeping into his very core, melting away the tension that usually clings to him. The table between them grows cluttered with the small traces of ritual. Spoons resting in saucers, droplets of tea glistening where they have spilled, the faint clink as a mug is set down and lifted again. Each sound is delicate, tiny yet magnified by the quiet of the room. Together they form a kind of music, a lullaby without words. The tower itself seems to respond. The low hum of its systems blends with the sounds of tea, forming an undertone that grounds the atmosphere. The shadows on the walls sway gently, caught in the rhythm of steam and breath. Beyond the windows, the city remains a muted canvas, its glow distant, its noise barely more than a memory. It is as though the world outside has bowed its head, granting the Titans this space for their quiet ritual. As Raven's voice drifts lower, almost a murmur now, the tea continues to weave its spell. Each sip slows their movements further. Eyelids grow heavier, shoulders slump a little deeper, and the rhythm of their laughter softens until it is little more than a smile. The tea does not simply warm them, it lulls them, easing them into the deeper stillness that waits beyond wakefulness. The room glows faintly with all of it. The steam, the laughter, the light, the presence of 5 friends who have saved their world countless times, and who now, for this small sliver of night, are simply resting within it. The warmth of the tea seeps further into them, not just as heat, but as something subtler, a tether drawing each of them into the same quiet pace. The clink of mugs grows slower, more deliberate, until even the smallest motions feel drawn out, as though time itself is settling alongside them. Steam curls upward like soft, fragile threads, vanishing only to be replaced again and again, each trail a fleeting mark of the moment. Starfire pours a second round, careful and graceful, her hands steady as though this ritual is more than habit. It is ceremony. The tea glows faintly as it catches the light, liquid amber that shimmers like trapped sunlight. She passes the mugs with a kind of reverence, her smile gentle, her gaze tender. The simple act of pouring feels sacred in her hands, as though she is binding the team together with every refill. Beast Boy and Cyborg share another playful exchange over who has the fullest mug, but even their banter is muted. Their voices are low, stretched into drowsy laughter that rolls through the room like waves meeting the shore. Each chuckle lingers, echoing in the stillness before fading back into silence. It is not about who wins. It never is. It is about the comfort of familiarity, the steady rhythm of their friendship. Cyborg takes his time with his drink, his movements measured. He balances the mug in his large hand, the ceramic looking almost delicate against the strength of his build. He exhales softly after a sip, a quiet stream of breath that mingles with the rising steam. His usual energy is absent, replaced by a deep ease that makes him seem almost weightless, as though even the metal within him is relaxed. Beast Boy nestles deeper into the cushions, stretching his arms wide before curling them back around his mug. His eyelids are heavy, his grin softer, lazier. He tilts his head against the couch, green hair falling across his forehead, the picture of someone who could slip into sleep at any moment. But he stays awake, held by the comfort of the company, by the gentle lull that keeps them all tethered together. Raven's voice becomes more like music than speech, her reading steady and unbroken. The words weave through the air like threads of silk, connecting each listener without demanding their attention. They don't need to follow the story. Her cadence is enough. The rise and fall of her tone is soothing, each phrase a soft tide that carries them deeper into restfulness. It is the kind of voice that makes the mind wander gently, drifting without resistance, like a leaf carried downstream. Robin shifts slightly, his fingers brushing the rim of his mug, his gaze wandering from the book in Raven's hands to the friends beside him. His body feels unburdened, his thoughts quieter than usual, the endless lists and plans that normally fill his mind fading into the background. For him, stillness is a rarity, and tonight it feels like a gift. He lets his shoulders drop, his breath slow, his grip on control loosen. For once there is nothing to do but be present. The room itself seems to join in the ritual. Shadows soften along the wall, stretching gently as though reluctant to break the calm. The hum of the tower lowers into a near whisper, a steady undertone like the slow beat of a heart. The faint tapping of rain begins against the distant windows, so light it is almost imagined, yet it adds another layer to the lull. The world outside seems to blur, leaving only this room, this tea, this moment. Their breaths begin to align unconsciously, the rhythm of the team slowing to match Raven's measured tone. Inhale, exhale, sip, sigh, small sounds, small movements, weaving into a shared pulse, Even their stillness is synchronized, like a group of instruments playing the same song. Not loudly, not proudly, but softly, perfectly in tune. The second round of tea dwindles, mugs emptying with unhurried sips. No one rushes to refill them. Instead, they hold on to the warmth that remains, their fingers lingering on the ceramic, savoring the simple comfort. It is not the drink alone that soothes them, but the act of sharing it, the ritual itself. As Raven's voice drapes more softly over the room, the space begins to feel suspended between waking and dreaming. The story becomes less a tale and more a rhythm. The tea less a drink and more a binding thread. The room less a place and more a cocoon. Together, the Titans float within it, held not by words or battles, but by the fragile, enduring quiet of being at peace. The tea dwindles gradually, as though none of them wish for it to truly end. Each sip is slower than the last, stretched out as though prolonging the warmth in their hands could stretch the night itself. The mugs, once steaming, now carry only the faintest wisps, their surfaces filmed with the soft glow of lamplight. The air is heavy with the lingering scent, sweet, herbal, and faintly earthy, soothing in its persistence. Starfire, who poured with such care, now simply holds her mug close, not for the drink within, but for the warmth it carries. Her eyes linger on her friends, luminous even in this dim light. She has no need to speak, for her gaze says everything. Gratitude, joy, serenity. For her, this gathering is more than shared tea. It is family gathered in gentle unity, a circle unbroken. Cyborg leans back, stretching his legs with a faint creak of metal, though even that sound feels softened by the room. His mug rests against his chest now, balanced lazily, his eyes half-lidded but awake. The strength and solidity he carries daily has melted into something calmer, an anchor not of weight, but of quiet presence. The rhythm of his breathing is slow, almost meditative, matching the hum of the tower that surrounds them. Beast Boy yawns, though he tries to disguise it behind his mug. His grin remains, softer now, fading into the edges of sleepiness. He wiggles his toes against the rug, stretching himself out like a cat before curling back into the couch. The warmth of the tea lingers in him, loosening the last hints of restlessness. The energy that usually sparks off him in every direction has dimmed into something gentler, like embers glowing in the quiet of night. Raven reads on, her voice now more of a whisper than speech. Each word lands with the weightlessness of falling feathers, dissolving almost as soon as it is spoken. The book is open in her hands, but she hardly glances at the page. Her memory carries the tale, her tone carrying the room. Her voice has become less about telling a story and more about sustaining the calm, a thread that binds them all in its rhythm. She too feels it, though she would not say so aloud. A rare softness drapes itself around her like a shadow finally at ease. Robin finishes his tea and sets his mug gently on the table. The soft clink of ceramic against wood, a sound that settles into the silence rather than breaking it. His gaze lingers on the mugs around the table, on the steam fading into nothingness, on the subtle peace that has taken hold of each of them. He knows moments like this cannot be commanded, cannot be trained into existence. They arrive quietly, like a gift, and all he can do is accept it. The room itself carries their stillness. The glow from the lamps is low and steady, their light bending gently against the windows where faint streaks of rain trace their paths downward. Beyond the glass, the city is a blurred canvas of golds and silvers, its noise and urgency muffled into near silence. The tower feels far removed from it all, an island adrift on calm waters, holding the Titans in a protective hush. One by one, mugs find their places on the table. The small clinks echo softly, filling the room with a rhythm that feels like the closing of a chapter. Fingers linger on the handles, reluctant to let go, as though setting them down might scatter the quiet they have built together. But the silence holds, strong and delicate, woven not from sound, but from the simple act of being together. Breaths deepen, movements slow. The ritual of tea has ended, but its effect remains, settling into their bodies, curling around their thoughts, leaving behind a weightless calm. It is not drowsiness alone, though that comes too. It is the kind of quiet that wraps itself around the soul, that softens sharp edges, that makes even the strongest feel safe enough to close their eyes. And so the room becomes more than a place. It becomes a cocoon, a shared dream before sleep. The mugs may be empty, the steam gone, but the warmth remains. It lingers in their hands, in their laughter, now faded into smiles, in the air that hums with the memory of tea and the rhythm of Raven's voice. They sit within it, suspended between waking and dreaming, the night outside forgotten, the world narrowed to this circle of friends, this soft enchantment of calm. The mugs sit cooling on the table now, forgotten yet not abandoned. Their faint traces of warmth linger in the air, curling through the quiet like a memory too gentle to let go. The fragrance, though softer, is still present, sweet and earthy, a reminder of the ritual just shared. It drifts into the fabric of the couch, into the cushions where Beast Boy sprawls, into the folds of Robin's cape as it rests beside him. It settles in the room as though it belongs there, as though it was meant to remain. Starfire leans back, her posture loose and graceful, as though she has melted into the chair. She closes her eyes for a moment, her smile faint but unbroken, her hands resting lightly in her lap. Her breathing is steady, slow, matching the rhythm that seems to echo between them all. To her, this stillness is not foreign, but precious, like a memory she wants to carry home with her. Something she will hold close long after the night has passed. Cyborg lets out a long, low exhale, the sound more like a gentle hum than a sigh. His head tilts slightly against the back of the couch, his gaze unfocused, drifting between the rain-touched window and the shadows playing along the ceiling. He doesn't need to speak. His presence, his ease, says enough. The usual drive, the constant readiness, has given way to a calm that is both rare and welcome. Even the faint buzz of his circuitry seems quieter, softened by the mood of the room. Beast Boy curls deeper into the cushions, tugging his knees slightly closer as if instinctively seeking warmth, though the tea has already left plenty of that behind. His eyelids are heavy now, fluttering once, twice, before staying closed longer with each blink. He doesn't fight it. Instead, he lets himself sway between wakefulness and dreams, content in the knowledge that he is safe here, surrounded by those he trusts most. A small smile remains on his lips, as though he carries the laughter of earlier within him, even as sleep begins to tug. Raven's voice drifts to its final notes, the story's words tapering into a soft conclusion that lingers in the air. She does not announce its end. She simply lets it dissolve, as though the book itself knows this is enough. Her fingers close it gently, the sound of pages pressing together, whispering into the quiet. She does not set it aside immediately, instead keeping it on her lap, her hands resting lightly on its cover. Her gaze remains calm, her breath even, her silence not an absence, but a continuation of the same unbroken rhythm she wove with her words. Robin's eyes trace the room one last time, and for once there is no plan forming behind them, no calculation or preparation. He is simply observing, Cyborg at ease. Beast Boy nearly asleep, Starfire radiant even in stillness, Raven serene. The sight is enough to steady him further. He feels his own body relax, shoulders no longer stiff, his hands unclenched. He leans back, letting the hush of the room carry him. His thoughts as quiet as the rain outside. The tower itself seems to listen. The rain, so faint at first, has grown steadier, a delicate percussion against the windows. It is not harsh or storm-like, but rhythmic, like fingertips tapping a lullaby. The hum of the tower beneath it creates a harmony, the two sounds merging into something constant, something that fills the silence without disturbing it. Shadows shift gently across the walls, the lamplight flickering once before settling into its steady glow again. The tea has done its work, not only in warming their bodies, but in softening their edges, slowing their movements, aligning their breaths. What remains now is a room suspended in quiet. The Titans are not asleep yet, but they are resting in the threshold of it. Each heartbeat slower, each breath deeper, their energies pooled together in one calm rhythm. The clink of mugs is long gone. The sound of Raven's voice is only memory. What is left is the hush. The kind of hush that doesn't feel empty but full, alive with presence. The hush of friends gathered in safety. The hush of night settling fully outside. The hush that comes before sleep, when the world seems to pause and let you rest within it. And so the tea time ends not with words or ceremony, but with this: 5 figures resting in shared silence. The glow of the lamps around them, the scent of herbs still lingering, the sound of rain marking the minutes. Together they drift, unrushed, unbothered, unworried, into the quiet rhythm of night. The tea has faded into memory now, leaving behind only its warmth, but the hush it created still holds. The Titans linger in that quiet, their bodies resting deeper into cushions and shadows. Yet the night has not drifted entirely into silence. A spark of softness remains, and it finds its way into stories, small, gentle things, lighter than whispers, floating easily between them. The first story comes like a glow, drawn from Starfire as naturally as the light she always carries within her. She speaks not of battles or victories, but of gardens, vast stretches of her homeworld, where flowers bloom beneath alien skies. Her words describe blossoms that shimmer as though dusted with starlight, petals that change color with the turning of moons, and winding paths where glowing vines hum softly in the breeze. She tells of nights spent walking beneath them, her hands brushing the luminous leaves, her heart quiet in the company of such beauty. In her memory, the air was always warm, always sweet, and the stars above seemed close enough to touch. The team listens, not with questions or interruptions, but with the quiet attention of those who know the story is not in the details, but in the feeling. And as she speaks, the room seems to change. Shadows stretch softer, the lamplight gentler, as though even the tower is leaning closer to hear. For a moment, they all imagine those glowing gardens, vast and endless, shimmering softly beneath alien constellations. It is not just her story. It becomes theirs too, a shared dream spun from her memory. When her voice falls into stillness, Cyborg picks it up, though his tale is of something smaller, humbler, and wonderfully human. He recalls a childhood ritual, one of comfort and laughter, his favorite bedtime snack. The story carries no weight of battles, no grandeur, only the simple joy of sneaking into the kitchen late at night, cobbling together something sweet with whatever was left in the cupboards. He describes the crunch of cereal and milk too sugary, the clumsy stacking of cookies on a plate, the way the sound of the refrigerator door seemed louder than thunder in the sleeping house. His laughter, soft and low, rolls into the room as he admits how those snacks never lasted long, devoured too quickly, but remembered always. The story brings with it a different kind of warmth, one rooted not in starlight, but in familiarity. The Titans lean into it, their smiles gentle, their eyes heavy with the comfort of imagining themselves in those same kitchens, caught between hunger and drowsiness, stealing bites before sleep. It is not the snack itself that lingers in them, but the tenderness of the memory, the way small rituals, even silly ones, can become treasures. Then Beast Boy, unable to resist adding his own mark on the moment, shifts, not in words at first, but in form. One blink, and the green-haired figure on the cushions is gone, replaced by a tiny kitten curled on the rug, paws tucked neatly beneath him. The sight draws quiet chuckles from the others, the kind that hum rather than break the silence. He does not stop there. Next to Rabbit, ears drooping, twitching its nose softly. Then a small turtle, blinking slowly as though sleep has already taken him. Each shift is slower than his usual bursts of energy, each animal softer, cuddlier, more suited for bedtime. The room brightens with a ripple of laughter, hushed but genuine, a thread of joy weaving into the calm. The playfulness is not disruptive. It is part of the rhythm, a story told not in words but in gestures, in the simple act of bringing lightness to the moment. Beast Boy's transformations are like little sparks of imagination, reminders that even here, on the edge of dreams, joy has its place. And so the stories unfold, not in a rush, not with loudness, but as steps deeper into calm. Each tale is a thread, weaving them closer together, pulling them gently toward sleep. The glow of Starfire's gardens, the warmth of Cyborg's midnight kitchen, the softness of Beast Boy's shapes, all of it blends into tapestry of quiet companionship. These are not stories of what they have fought or conquered. They are stories of who they are when the world grows still, when there is nothing left but to be, to remember, to rest. The room breathes with them, the air rich with memory and laughter and silence all at once. The shadows curl in closer, the rain outside keeping its steady rhythm. And within the cocoon of the tower, the Titans sit together, their voices fading into softer tones, their stories drifting like feathers, guiding them further and further into the quiet of night. The stories begin to ripple outward, each one quieter than the last, as though the night itself is leaning down to listen. They do not chase after grand adventures or battles won. There is no need. These are fragments, gentle pieces of memory and imagination, strung together like beads on a thread. Starfire speaks again, though her voice is softer now, her words flowing like the hush of wind through her glowing gardens. She recalls evenings when the sky of Tamarin turned a shade of violet so deep it seemed endless, and her people would gather beneath the glow of twin moons. She describes lanterns released into the sky, floating until they vanished into the stars, carrying with them small wishes, whispered into the night. Her eyes brighten faintly as she tells it, but her tone is calm, reverent. She does not need to embellish. The image alone is enough to wrap the Titans in the wonder of another world, one where even the night blooms with light. The room grows still as they imagine it. For a moment, the lamplight in the tower feels like those lanterns, glowing softly in the hush, floating into the memory of her story. No one speaks, and they don't need to. The vision lingers long after her voice quiets, leaving the air feeling as though it has been brushed with starlight. Cyborg's memory comes next, carrying with it a warmth of another kind. He recalls the sound of his father's voice calling him in from outside, the faint clatter of tools being set aside in the garage, and the comfort of knowing the night was settling in around them. He remembers the glow of television screens watched half asleep, the flicker of cartoons blurring into dreams. His story is not detailed with precision, but with feeling, an embrace of familiarity, the ordinary magic of being home. It carries the weight of nostalgia, a tenderness that folds easily into the quiet of the room. Beast Boy adds his own note of playfulness, though even his humor is slowed now, softened by the hour. He shifts once more, this time into a small owl, feathers ruffling as he blinks drowsily at the others. His head turns in that peculiar way owls can manage, eliciting another ripple of hushed laughter. Then, almost without transition, he melts into a tiny puppy, curling against the rug with a little sigh that sounds almost human. The room accepts these shapes, not as interruptions, but as part of the rhythm, as though each animal is a story of its own, a wordless tale of comfort and closeness. Raven, though quiet, lets her gaze move slowly across them all. She does not tell her story aloud, not yet, but her silence is not empty. It holds something within it, something unspoken, but felt by the others. For her, presence itself is enough, her stillness as steadying as the words of the others. Robin finally allows himself a memory, though he doesn't dress it in detail. He recalls the feel of quiet rooftops beneath his boots on nights when the city seemed still, when the weight of responsibility loosened for just a moment. He remembers the sound of wind against his mask, the glow of distant lights, and the strange peace of being both alone and not alone, knowing somewhere others kept watch too. His voice, though steady, carries a softness not often heard, the gentleness of a truth admitted only in stillness. Each story that passes does not replace the one before. It layers atop it. Starfire's glowing skies, Cyborg's warmth of home, Beast Boy's playful forms, Robin's quiet rooftops, all blend together, a patchwork of memory and imagination. The room becomes heavy with them, yet not weighed down. Instead, it feels buoyant, lifted by the threads of lives shared, moments cherished, laughter remembered. The Titans do not measure the passing of time. Minutes slip into one another, blurred by the softness of voices and the steady fall of rain against the glass. Each tale brings them closer not to wakefulness, but to the edge of dreams, each word and chuckle and breath carrying them another step deeper into calm. By now, their voices have slowed. Laughter has dimmed into smiles, words into whispers, and the hush between stories grows longer, thicker, almost like the pause between heartbeats. It is no longer about telling or listening. It is about being together, resting in the same rhythm, letting the quiet grow until it fills everything. The silence stretches, and for a while it seems as though no more stories will come. The quiet is not uncomfortable. Rather, it is the kind that grows after sharing something meaningful, a silence that feels whole. The rain beyond the windows has become steady, a soft percussion that fills the pauses, blending seamlessly with the low hum of the tower systems. The air is warm, fragrant still with faint traces of tea, and the dim light makes the room feel smaller, as though it is folding gently around them. It is Raven who breaks the stillness, not abruptly, not loudly, but with a voice that slips into the room as naturally as breath. She does not look up at first, her gaze lingering on the book resting in her lap. When she begins to speak, it isn't with the cadence of someone reading, but with the tone of someone remembering. Her story is not long, nor is it filled with laughter or grand images. It is simple, soft, like the turning of a page. She recalls nights spent with a candlelight flickering against the walls of her room, the flame moving in rhythm with her breath. She tells of tracing shapes in the shadows, watching them shift and dance, and how those shifting forms became a kind of company, a language that belonged only to her. For her, those shadows were not frightening, but calming, gentle companions who stayed as long as the flame burned. Her voice is steady, low, with pauses that allow her words to settle like dust. Each detail is small, almost fragile, yet the way she tells it makes the story feel vast, like a dream spreading outward in every direction. The Titans do not interrupt. They let her words ripple through the room, soaking into the quiet, already waiting there. As she speaks, the atmosphere shifts again. The shadows in the tower seem to respond, moving softly along the walls, not with menace, but with tenderness. They sway and curl in time with the rain, as if acknowledging the story being told. The team feels it, not as something to fear, but as another layer of calm, another rhythm to sink into. When Raven falls silent, the quiet that follows feels deeper, heavier, yet not oppressive. It is the kind of silence that doesn't ask to be filled, the kind that lingers with meaning. Her story has left something behind, not an image, not a place, but a feeling, one that seeps into them the way warmth seeps into skin. The others shift slightly, not to speak, but to settle, their bodies folding more comfortably into cushions and blankets. Beast Boy, still curled in his small puppy form, releases a faint sound somewhere between a sigh and a snore, a sound that makes Cyborg's lips twitch into a smile. Starfire leans her head against the back of the couch, her eyes still wide but softened, reflecting the dim glow of the lamps. Robin closes his eyes for a moment, not to sleep yet, but to rest in the fullness of the quiet. The stories have done their work. They are not just tales now, they are threads, pulling each Titan closer, not only to sleep, but to each other. Each memory shared has stitched the group tighter together, weaving them into something soft, something unshakable. It is no longer about who is speaking. The stories blur into one another, their edges fading until it feels less like 5 voices, and more like a single stream of memory flowing gently, endlessly. The glow of gardens, the comfort of snacks, the rooftops, the animals, the shadows, all of it mingles, creating a tapestry of peace that hovers in the air like a spell. The hush deepens. Words grow fewer. The room becomes heavy with drowsiness, the kind that pulls the body without force, luring it into rest. And through it all, the rain continues to fall, steady and unchanging, as though it too is part of the story, a lullaby written in water. The weight of the evening presses gently now, not with heaviness, but with the slow, inevitable pull of rest. Their voices, which had been steady and warm, taper into softer tones, each word stretched as though reluctant to leave the lips. There is no rush to speak anymore. Even laughter is thinned into faint chuckles, the kind that fade into a quiet sigh before vanishing entirely. The stories linger, suspended in the room like drifting feathers. Each Titan holds their own memory close, but none feel the need to say more. Instead, they allow the quiet to expand between them, filling the tower like a tide of calm. The rain is still there, tapping its delicate rhythm against the glass, but even it feels slower, as though matching its pace to the gentle fall of the Titan's breaths. Starfire is the first to soften completely into stillness. Her hands, which had been animated when telling her tale, now rest quietly in her lap. The glow of the lamplight reflects faintly in her eyes, but the spark is dimmed, as though her thoughts are already halfway between the tower and the garden she spoke of. The memory clings to her, and in its warmth she looks utterly at ease, her usual brightness distilled into something serene. Beside her, Cyborg has sunk deeper into the couch, his broad frame slackening in the cushions. His eyelids droop, heavy, though every now and then they lift slightly as if to resist. But even he cannot hold onto the thread of wakefulness. His mind drifts to the faint hum of circuits in his body, a sound he has long been used to, but which tonight blends seamlessly with the rain, creating a lullaby no words could improve. Beast Boy, still curled in his small puppy form, is perhaps the most visibly surrendered to the pull of rest. His tiny chest rises and falls in even rhythm, the faint sound of his breath steady and reassuring. At one point his ear flicks, a soft twitch as though chasing something in a dream, but he doesn't stir. His presence, small and warm on the rug, becomes part of the scene itself, a symbol of trust, of safety. Robin leans forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees, chin dipping as though he means to think. But thought itself has slipped from his grasp. His mask hides the full weight of his expression, yet the corners of his mouth are softer, his posture less rigid. For someone who often bears the tension of leadership, the release is almost startling. It's not the release of victory nor the satisfaction of plans fulfilled, but something gentler, something he rarely allows himself, peace. And Raven. Raven has closed her book, fingers resting lightly on its cover. Her eyes, half-lidded, move slowly between the others as if ensuring each one has surrendered to the quiet before she allows herself to follow. There is a faint stillness about her, a quiet satisfaction, that comes not from her own story, but from the way the room has settled. The shadows she spoke of seem to curl around her shoulders, not ominous, but protective, as though they too are beginning to rest. The hush that surrounds them now is no longer a pause between stories. It has become the story itself. The tower, once so often filled with noise and energy, hums in harmony with this newfound calm. Even the city outside, with its distant lights and movements, seems to bend around the tower's peace, letting this single space remain untouched, wrapped in serenity. Time slides past unnoticed. Minutes fold into one another, seamless, dreamlike. The Titans no longer need words, no longer need memories. Their presence, their shared warmth, their collective stillness. This is the truest tale of the night. It is not spoken, but felt, a story without beginning or end, carrying them ever closer to sleep. The room breathes with them. Every soft exhale, every rustle of fabric, every faint sound of shifting bodies joins together, weaving a lullaby without music, a rhythm without beat. It is the sound of peace, the sound of five hearts slowing, steadying, and sinking with the quiet around them. The evening has settled so completely now that it is difficult to tell where the stories ended and the silence began. Words have faded, laughter has dissolved, and the air has grown so still it feels like the tower itself is resting. Only the rain continues outside, steady and unchanging, the soft heartbeat of the night. Each Titan has drifted into their own posture of rest. The couch, once a gathering place for chatter, has become a nest of drowsiness. Cyborg's head tilts back slightly, his shoulders slack, one arm draped lazily over the armrest as though gravity itself has convinced him to stay. Starfire leans into the cushions, her bright hair a glowing halo against the dim lamplight, her breathing deep and even. On the rug, Beast Boy has melted fully into his small green puppy form, curled into the softest circle, chest rising and falling in a rhythm that could lull anyone nearby. A faint whimper escapes him, not troubled but dreamlike, as though he's already chasing something gentle in his sleep. His tiny paws twitch once, then settle. Robin has eased back against the couch now, the earlier tension in his shoulders finally unraveling. His mask hides the telltale signs of drowsiness, but the softness of his jaw, the way his chin dips lower with every breath, speaks for him. The leader's watchful eyes have closed for the night, replaced by a calm trust that is rarely seen, but deeply felt. Raven is the last to hold on, though only faintly. Her book rests unopened on her lap, her hands folded loosely over it. Her gaze lingers on the rain-speckled window, but her eyes are unfocused, as if the world outside has become a blur of shadow and light, too soft to keep her attention. She takes a slow breath, then another, and the shadows at the edges of the room curl protectively closer. Not menacing, but tender, like a blanket wrapping itself around her. The tower has become more than a home tonight. It has become a cradle. The walls absorb the quiet. The floor holds their weight, and the faint hum of machinery has slowed to a murmur that blends seamlessly into the stillness. For once there is no urgency, no alarms, no battles waiting just beyond the horizon. The only task is to rest, and even that requires no effort. Moments stretch. They are not measured in words or glances, but in the deepening of breath, in the way eyelids grow too heavy to fight, in the surrender of limbs to the pull of sleep. The stories have dissolved completely now, leaving only their afterglow, a warmth that lingers in the room as though the memories themselves have chosen to stay and watch over them. The rain against the glass continues, soft and rhythmic, a lullaby written in water. Every drop is like a note, every streak like a verse, and together they compose a song the Titans do not need to hear to understand. It is a song of rest, of letting go, of peace that has been well earned. And so, one by one, without need for words or gestures, the Titans surrender. Starfire's breathing falls into the steady rhythm of dreams. Cyborg's head lowers just enough that the hum of his systems becomes indistinguishable from the hush of the room. Beast Boy shifts faintly in his sleep, but does not wake, his tiny body curled close to the warmth of the rug. Robin exhales slowly, his chest rising and falling with the ease of someone who, for once, carries no weight. And Raven finally lets her eyes close fully, her lashes resting softly against her cheeks, her expression calm, almost serene. The hush becomes complete. It is not an emptiness, but a fullness. The fullness of presence, of trust, of knowing that, for tonight, the world beyond the tower can wait. Inside these walls, within this moment, they are safe. They are together. And they are finally, deeply at rest. The stories before sleep have ended, yet their echoes linger in the silence, weaving themselves into dreams. The night has settled fully now, blanketing Jump City in a hush that even the restless streets cannot disturb. Beyond the glass walls of Titan's Tower, the city glimmers faintly, lights like scattered stars against the dark horizon. From this height, the noise and chaos below seem distant, softened by the veil of night until they are nothing more than twinkles in the distance, reminders that the world is still turning while here in this space, time seems to have paused. Inside the tower, the glow of the lamps is dimmed. Robin, with quiet care, has lowered their brightness until only a golden hush remains, warm and gentle. The light does not chase away the darkness, but mingles with it, creating a balance that soothes rather than startles. The walls, bathed in this glow, no longer carry the vibrancy of day. They seem to lean inward, cozy and protective, as though the tower itself is settling down alongside its inhabitants. The living room, once alive with stories and quiet laughter, has grown heavy with stillness. It is not the silence of emptiness, but of fullness, like the final note of a lullaby hanging in the air, lingering long after the music has stopped. The rain against the glass has softened to a faint misting, a delicate percussion that is almost imperceptible now, as though the night itself is treading lightly, so as not to disturb what has been created within these walls. One by one, the Titans yield to sleep. Beast Boy, still curled on the rug in his puppy form, is the picture of unguarded peace. His tiny chest rises and falls with each breath, steady and sure, a rhythm so gentle it feels like it belongs to the night itself. Occasionally, one paw shifts or his ears twitch, but these are the small movements of dreams beginning to unfurl. Around him, the faint scent of herbal tea lingers in the air, blending with the warmth of the room like a blanket draped invisibly over them all. Starfire leans against Raven, her long hair spilling like a curtain of firelight across the cushions. Her eyes, once bright and wide, have closed completely, and her lips rest in a soft, serene curve. There is trust in the way she leans, trust that allows her to let go, to rest against someone else's presence. It is the trust of a family, a bond strong enough to cradle each other into dreams. Raven does not move away. Her stillness is not resistance, but acceptance, her own body already surrendering to the drowsiness that is gathered in the room. Her head tilts slightly, her breathing quiet, almost imperceptible. If the shadows around her shift now, it is not with mystery or edge, but with tenderness, as though they too have laid down their burden for the night. Cyborg reclines deeper into the couch, his arms stretched lazily along its edge. His human side and his mechanical side both look at ease, no tension dividing them tonight. The faint hum of his systems is low and steady, blending with the sound of breath and rain until it feels less like a machine and more like part of the natural rhythm of the tower itself. Even in sleep, his presence carries warmth, anchoring the quiet with something solid and reassuring. Robin sits nearest the lamp, its dim glow brushing gently across his features. His posture is softer now, his usual discipline eased into something almost childlike. The mask that so often defines his presence cannot hide the slackening of his face, the way the corners of his mouth tilt just slightly in the direction of peace. His hand rests loosely against his knee, fingers no longer tense but relaxed, as though at last even he has allowed the weight of responsibility to slip away, if only for the night. The room breathes with them. Every soft exhale, every tiny stir of fabric, every faint hum creates a tapestry of sound so subtle it is barely heard, yet it fills the space with life. Together, they form a chorus of rest, a lullaby composed not of words, but of presence. Each breath affirms that they are safe, that they are together, that this is a night meant not for fighting or planning, but for dreaming. The tower itself seems to acknowledge this surrender. Its walls hum softly, the machinery within slowing as though tuned to their rhythm. The great glass windows reflect the faint shimmer of the city beyond, but those lights feel far away now, no longer pressing at the edges of their peace. Here in this living room, bathed in golden hush, the Titans exist in a world apart, a world wrapped in stillness, where the only task left is to drift into dreams. The golden light in the room softens further, seeming to dim of its own accord. It no longer stands in contrast to the night, but melts into it, until it is hard to tell where glow ends and shadow begins. The tower is breathing with them, holding its occupants as tenderly as any blanket. The hush is deep now, a hush that presses gently against the skin, surrounding every corner of the room. Beast Boy stirs faintly, the little pup shifting his position until he finds the perfect curl. His ear flicks once, then stills. The tiniest sound escapes him, a soft, contented whine that is closer to a sigh, and then he sinks further into his dreams. In his sleep, his body glows faintly with that peculiar magic of shape-shifting, as though even unconscious he drifts between forms. For an instant, his paw twitches as if it wants to become something else, something with wings or whiskers, before settling back again into the stillness of the rug. Cyborg exhales, a slow release of air that blends seamlessly with the hum of his inner workings. His systems adjust automatically, lowering into a mode so quiet it feels almost like silence. If one listens closely, there is still a faint vibration within him, but it is steady, like the purr of a giant cat. It doesn't disturb the quiet. Instead, it anchors it, grounding the room in a rhythm that is neither human nor machine, but something between, something wholly his own. Starfire's breathing deepens into the gentle cadence of sleep. Her head is tilted, leaning slightly more against Raven's shoulder. Her hair spills across them both, its strands catching the lamplight, so that they gleam faintly like embers that refuse to go out. Her lips part just enough to let out a quiet breath, one that brushes the hush with the warmth of her presence. Around her, the air seems to shimmer faintly, as though her very being still carries some piece of Tamaran's starlit skies. Raven, though motionless, has allowed her body to give in. Her hands rest loosely against the closed book in her lap, fingers barely curled, her shoulders relaxed in a way they rarely are during waking hours. Her stillness has always been a shield, a careful control over emotion and movement alike. But now that control has loosened, softened, become something different. No longer a barrier, but a release. The shadows around her are no longer guardians or tools. They are companions, stretching quietly across the floor like strands of velvet, settling into rest with her. Robin lingers longest on the edge of sleep, but even he cannot resist the pull. His head dips slightly forward, then corrects, then dips again. At last, he leans back against the couch, the mask that so often hides his humanity now framing the softness of a face at ease. His breaths come slow, measured not by will but by surrender. The rhythm of someone who has finally given permission to himself to rest. The faint light touches the curve of his jaw, the fall of his hair, the steady rise and fall of his chest. For a moment he looks less like a leader and more like the boy he is beneath the title. The tower is utterly still. No words are spoken, no stories remain. The only sounds are the soft symphony of breathing and the distant patter of rain. Outside, the city's glittering lights remain faint and far, their energy unable to intrude upon the cocoon of calm wrapped around this space. Inside, the hush is so complete that even the smallest movements, the shift of fabric, the creak of a cushion, sound like part of a lullaby. Time feels suspended. Minutes pass unnoticed, each one blending seamlessly into the next. If there are dreams forming, they have not yet taken shape. This is the threshold, the in-between place where thoughts drift like mist, and the body lies heavy with release. It is a fragile, beautiful state, neither fully awake nor fully asleep, but balanced gently on the edge of both. And together, as though carried by the same invisible current, the Titans rest there. No alarms, no missions. No voices calling them into the fray. Only this, the soft glow of light, the quiet of breath, the tender weight of night folding around them. The night holds steady outside, patient and endless. The city lights beyond the glass are no longer sharp glimmers, but softened jewels blurred by the rain, distant and small. They look less like buildings and more like constellations, as though the Titans have been lifted high above the world and placed in their own quiet orbit. From here, everything noisy, everything urgent feels impossibly far away. Inside the tower, the last threads of wakefulness begin to slip. The living room breathes as one, each titan folded into the warmth of rest. The golden hush of the lamp has settled so low it feels like starlight caught in a jar, faint and tender, spreading just enough glow to kiss the edges of the room. Beyond that, there is only shadow, soft, protective, embracing. Beast Boy twitches again in his sleep, and this time the shimmer of his power flickers more visibly across him. For a fleeting second, his curled puppy form stretches into something smaller, a kitten, paws tucked beneath its chest, whiskers twitching with the pulse of dreams. Then, with a sigh that is almost comically tiny, he shifts back, nestling deeper into the rug as though the earth itself has opened to cradle him. Whatever his dreams hold, they are harmless, playful things, keeping him safe inside their borders. Starfire has slipped further still. Her breathing is so even now that it almost merges with the rhythm of the rain. Her head rests more fully against Raven's shoulder, her hair pooling in fiery strands that catch the dim light like the tail of a falling star. There is serenity in her expression, the peace of someone dreaming not of battles, but of gardens and skies, of lanterns floating upward into the dark. She has carried her home with her into sleep, and it glows faintly around her like an aura. Raven sits unmoving, but she too has crossed the line into dreams. Her eyelids no longer flutter with effort. They are still sealed against the outside world. Her hands remain folded loosely over her book, but the energy of holding on is gone. She has surrendered completely. Around her, the shadows are calm, no longer restless or shifting, but pooling like ink that has found its final shape. They do not linger to guard her, but to accompany her, to drift wherever her dreams may take her. Cyborg makes a faint sound in his sleep, a deep, contented hum that vibrates through his frame before fading. His systems dim further, their glow softer, their hum lower, until they seem less like machinery and more like grounding, and in the silence it acts like a lullaby in itself. If he dreams, they are familiar comforts, of warmth, of laughter, of belonging. His rest is whole, both human and machine at peace. Robin has leaned fully back against the couch now, the golden light spilling across his face. His mask hides the details, but his posture tells everything. His body is slack, his arms heavy at his sides, his breathing slow. For once, there is no trace of the leader, no edge of tension, no weight of responsibility. There is only a boy resting among friends, a boy who has given himself to the night without hesitation. His dreams may be quieter than the others, more private, but they are no less needed, no less tender. The room has become something beyond a living space. It is a sanctuary. The walls seem to lean in, the ceiling seems lower, the floor warmer, as though the tower itself has settled into sleep with them. Even the hum of power through its systems is subdued, blending so perfectly into the stillness that it no longer feels mechanical at all, but organic, like the steady rhythm of a breath. The rain whispers against the glass, and for a fleeting moment, it feels as though the entire world has been reduced to three sounds: the rain, the hum, and the breaths of 5 titans. Together they create a harmony so delicate it seems too fragile to last, yet it holds, unbroken, carrying the tower deeper into the quiet. Dreams are beginning to form now. They do not announce themselves, but arrive gently, like mist curling at the edges of thought. Each titan carries their own dream, and though the details differ, gardens glowing under alien moons, rooftops bathed in wind, machines humming with joy, animals leaping through endless fields, They are united by the same undercurrent, peace. It is in this moment more than any other that the tower feels alive. Not with energy, not with motion, but with rest. It has become a cradle, a cocoon, a place where 5 young souls, so often stretched thin by battles and burdens, can simply be. And in that being, in that surrender, the room hums with a beauty more profound than any victory. The night has reached its quietest point, that fragile hour when even the city outside seems to hesitate, holding its breath. The streets are still alive with the faint glimmers, but their noise does not reach here. Instead, the tower stands apart like an island floating above the world, its windows reflecting the distant stars while its heart beats in time with the 5 resting inside. The glow of the lamp has dimmed to a golden whisper, barely enough to hold the room. Shadows curl in the corners, soft and unthreatening, their edges blurred by the hush. The light no longer commands attention. It simply exists, a quiet guardian of the space, steady but fading as though it too is weary and ready to sleep. Beast Boy shifts once more, and in the soft shimmer of his dreaming, his small body flickers between forms, a mouse for a breath, tiny whiskers twitching, then back to the comfort of a pup, a bird for the blink of an instant, wings tucked as though about to nest, then dissolving again into something smaller, softer. His unconscious mind drifts playfully across shapes, as though even his dreams are alive with the instinct to explore. Yet every form settles back into stillness, every flicker ending in peace. The rug beneath him has become his world, a safe ground on which his restless imagination can wander without waking. Starfire sighs faintly in her sleep, the sound so delicate it is nearly lost to the room. Her head is slipped more fully against Raven, her body angled in the comfort of closeness. In her dream, perhaps, she is walking through the glowing garden she described earlier, her hands brushing against blossoms that release their light into the night sky. The faint smile at the corner of her lips suggests that whatever she sees is beautiful, that her spirit is wandering somewhere far and serene while her body rests here, embraced by friends. Raven remains still, yet even she has surrendered more deeply now. Her hands, which rested on her book, have slipped slightly apart, one finger trailing loosely across the cover as though she had intended to turn another page but never did. Her dreams are quiet, quieter than the others, and they ripple like soft waves across an unseen shore. Around her, the shadows seem perfectly at ease, no longer curling but resting, their presence blending seamlessly with the hush of the room. It is as though her inner world has extended outward, painting the space with tranquility. Cyborg lets out another sound, half sigh, half hum, as though the warmth of the room has coaxed even his circuitry into sleep. His chest rises and falls with a rhythm so deep it seems unshakable, and the faint light from his systems pulses in steady time, a heartbeat of both man and machine. There is comfort in that sound, a reminder that strength can exist even in stillness, that the body can protect while the spirit rests. If he dreams, they are steady things, childhood comforts, familiar laughter, maybe the taste of the snack he once described. Small joys that feel immense when remembered in the hush of night. Robin has fallen fully now, the last to give in, but no less surrendered. His body has eased into the couch, his posture no longer holding the shape of alertness. The mask hides his closed eyes, but his breath tells the truth. Slow, measured, peaceful. For the first time in what feels like forever, there is no strategy forming in the back of his mind, no silent calculation waiting for dawn. There is only the dream state, quiet and deep, where even the leader can rest as simply as any other. The tower embraces them all. Its walls seem to lean inward with warmth. Its hum lowered into a gentle vibration, its lights dimmed into something like starlight. It feels less like a building and more like a living presence, aware of its role, aware that its inhabitants need nothing but calm tonight. The rain outside plays its endless rhythm, a lullaby that belongs not to any one of them, but to all of them. A reminder that nature itself keeps time with their breaths. Together, they have become a single rhythm. 5 hearts, 5 lungs, 5 sets of dreams flowing in the same tide. The stillness is thick now, but not heavy. It is buoyant, lifting them softly away from the waking world, carrying them deeper into the safe ocean of rest. It is here, in this moment, that the true beauty of the night reveals itself. Not in grand gestures, not in the brilliance of the city's lights or the endless reach of the stars, but in the quiet surrender of a group of souls who, for tonight, have laid everything down. The battles, the burdens, the endless responsibilities, none of it exists here. Only sleep, only dreams, only peace. The night deepens further, slipping past the hour where time feels like it has paused. The rain has softened into a gentler rhythm, not a downpour, but a delicate scatter, each drop pattering faintly against the tower's glass walls. It sounds almost like fingertips drumming a lullaby, light, persistent, and infinitely tender. The city beyond is nearly hidden now, its lights muted into hazy smudges, so faint that they seem to exist only as echoes. All that remains clear is the silence here, the silence that has filled the tower like a slow, warm tide. The lamp's glow finally yields, shrinking to a faint halo, and then fades entirely, as Robin's unconscious hand brushes against the dimmer switch. The room is bathed in near darkness now, with only the quiet pulse of Cyborg systems and the soft silver thread of moonlight breaking through the clouds. That moonlight stretches across the floor like a path, catching on the edges of Starfire's hair, glimmering across Beast Boy's small form, and reflecting faintly off Raven's book. It makes the room feel timeless, caught between reality and dream. Beast Boy's breathing has steadied into the deep rhythm of someone who has fully given himself to sleep. His dreaming shapes have stilled, leaving him curled in the familiar warmth of a pup, tail flicking once in a dream before settling again. He is lost to a world only he can see, but his body is anchored here, safe among his team. Starfire's expression has softened even further, her lips curved in the faintest trace of wonder. Whatever her dream holds, it glows behind her closed eyes, casting her features in serenity. She shifts slightly against Raven, finding a more comfortable position without ever waking, her trust in the closeness absolute. In the simple lean of her body, there is the weight of a bond unspoken yet unbreakable. Raven's hand has slipped fully now, her book tilting just enough to rest against her lap. She is utterly still, the quiet within her a mirror of the quiet around her. Even the shadows, so often restless, have fallen into slumber, settled into the corners, content to exist as nothing more than soft pools of night. She dreams, though no one could guess of what. Whatever visions come to her, they are met with calm acceptance, her mind as steady in rest as it is in waking. Cyborg has gone completely silent, save for the slow mechanical thrum that accompanies each breath. The glow of his systems has dimmed to the faintest pulse, barely visible beneath his chest plate. He looks both human and machine, yet in this moment he is entirely neither. He is something simpler, something whole. His rest radiates security as though the tower itself draws strength from his presence, holding its silence more firmly because of him. Robin, last of all, is fully surrendered. His body has slipped deeper into the cushions, his shoulders no longer tense, his hands loose and open. The mask hides the softness of his eyes, but his face has lost its sharpness. In sleep, he is no leader, no strategist, no figure of command. He is simply Robin, a boy embraced by rest. The sound of his breath is quiet but steady, weaving seamlessly into the lullaby of the room. The living room is transformed now. It no longer feels like a place built for meetings or laughter or battles. It feels sacred, hushed, a chamber of dreams. Every sound, every breath, every drop of rain, every pulse of the tower's systems contributes to an invisible harmony. The tower itself seems to exhale, as though its walls and floors have recognized the stillness and chosen to join it. Outside, the moon drifts higher, its silver glow painting the tower in faint strokes of light. Clouds pass slowly, pulling shadows across the glass, but the peace inside is untouched. No alarms, no distant cries, no sudden flickers of trouble reach this place. For tonight, the world respects the silence of the tower, allowing the Titans this single gift: uninterrupted rest. One by one, their dreams deepen, layers folding inward until they are carried far away. And yet, though their bodies rest apart, on the rug, on the couch, leaning against one another, they are bound by the same rhythm. Their breaths align, their silence unites, and their hearts, though dreaming of different worlds, beat together. The tower is wrapped in peace, not the fragile peace that breaks at the sound of a siren, but the true peace that comes only when both body and spirit have let go. It is not silence that feels empty. It is silence that feels full, whole, alive. The kind of silence that holds rather than hides. The night has them now, cradled within its vast arms. Whatever battles tomorrow may bring, whatever challenges await beyond the dawn, none of it exists here. For this one night, there are no heroes, no villains, no weight to carry. There are only 5 friends drifting into dreams, together in the stillness. And so the tower stands watch, silent and steady as the Titans sleep. And so the tower rests, holding their dreams in silence. May your night be just as calm, and may sleep find you as gently as it found them. Good night, everyone.